We be live. Hi,
Hello,
everyone.
hello.
Oh, Music Guy is here. Hello again, Music Guy. Music Guy is saying hello, Armin. Hello, Susie. Dee is here. I don't know why she's rolling her eyes. What?
Because there's Hindutva in the live chat.
Hello, Hindutva. Um, we'll see if we can get to you soon. We have a lot of Patreon questions today. So, guys, for people who don't know, we're first going to answer Patreon questions, and then we're going to get to the live chat. I don't know if we could even get to the live chat because we have been flooded with Patreon questions. If you guys want to make sure we answer your question, you can become a Patreon, and there's two reasons why that's great. Because first of all, we'll make sure that we answer your question. Second of all, if you can't be here live with us, but you want to make sure that me and Susie answer your question, then you could just post your question on Patreon under the post dedicated to the stream. And even if you're not here, your questions will be read and answered. So you get priority, and also for people who can't make it live here, that's a good way to get their question answered. And then after we answer,
you're underselling being a patron. If you're a patron, you also get the sexiest blasphemous art on earth, and you can support us for as little as $1 a month. So
yes. So you get so many benefits. But then after we answer the Patreon questions, then we're gonna look into the live chat. Oh, we blocked the Hindutva. I was gonna.
There was a comment that I was like, that's gonna be a no.
Okay. All right. Well, I was gonna take some time to like highlight some of the ridiculous. It was like okay. It was gonna be interesting for me. I like attacking crazy Hindutva views in the live chat, but it's fine. Hopefully, we get another Hindutva who manages not to say something. We'll get Susanna to ban them, so I could like dunk on Hindutva.
I'll tell you what it was after the show, and you're going to be like, yeah.
Okay, guys. If you're Hindutva, I would like to use you as an opportunity to show how ridiculous your views are. So please don't say anything that would make Susanna ban you. Okay, like be more strategic about it. Anyways, once we get the Patreon questions, we're gonna go to the live chat questions. Okay, cool. So start with. By the way, yeah. If I'm sad that the Hindutva is gone, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have banned him or her. Obviously, they probably said something that was ban worthy. Anyways, let's go to the first question.
So the first question is a bit long and protracted, so I don't even think I can fit it into a question that I put on screen. But short summary is that AGA is asking us about what is essentially a new provision of hate speech laws in it's a state, right? It's a state or provinces in Australia, in the state of Victoria, Australia. And so she asked me or asked us a question about that, and I read a little bit about it before getting into it, so I'll just read the question.
So this is called the anti-vilification laws in Australia. That is seems to be very restrict, like making certain speech hate speech illegal.
Yes.
Which seems okay. Go on.
Well, we're gonna get into it. So, in Victoria, Australia, we have an anti-vilification law, which is essentially a hate speech law, which came into effect in 2019, in which was amended to include symbols of hate, such as the low melanated symbol, which he means is the Yahtzee symbol, the bad people from World War II, that symbol.
The one from Hinduism, but counterclockwise. Reverse. Wait, which one is the Hinduism one? Is clockwise or the?
I don't know. I just know that the bad
one of
took
them
the original and reversed it and like
reverse it. I just want to remember.
It's a magic thing. If you in magic, anyways.
Yeah.
I don't believe in magic, but if you reverse symbols, then it's the opposite. Anyways.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, so they amended this hate speech law to include displaying the Yahtzee symbol. The Labor government has also extended the state's anti-vilification protections beyond race and religion to cover such areas as sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, and HIV/AIDS status. So that is now all of the categories that falls under this law. To help people subjected to vilification seek justice through the courts, the government will make civil and criminal vilification easier to prove. What are your thoughts on this? For me, I feel that it greatly impacts free speech. I might not agree with the speech said against me or others, but I don't want to live in a bubble either. I also think that this will cause animosity towards the LGBT community. And she provided us with further information.
I'm going to make a request to please, if you're posting your questions, like make them shorter so that we get to the other questions as well, because there's, or else we're going to spend a lot of time reading here. But I mean, what do you think about this? It does, like, these laws seem to go way beyond just banning, far right symbols. It seems like to be suggesting. Again, I haven't seen much of the details on this, but some of the arguments on it seem to be suggesting that, expressing certain opinions about people certain gender identities or sexual orientation or sex would be deemed illegal under these laws. Is that your understanding? Because that is like, I mean, as much as I'm against these kind of views, making the speech itself illegal seems like extremely overkill and anti-free speech. And I'm glad that United States has the First Amendment and wouldn't allow anything like this to happen, I guess. But these are my very broad. My take on it, broad, and based on maybe if I looked into it a lot more. If I had more time to research this, maybe this is not a good representation of what's happening. But what do you think?
Yeah, so I found this little infographic about it, and this is a little bit outdated because this talks about just the racial and religious vilification and not also disability, LGBT, disability, HIV status, all those other things. But it defines it as what is the difference between vilification and discrimination? Discrimination is treating or proposing to treat someone unfavorably because of a personal characteristic such as age or disability. Discrimination laws apply to conduct that occurs in certain settings, such as workplace. Vilification laws apply to anything that happens in public, for example, a community event or in the media. How is the act enforced? Complaints can be made to the Victorian Equal Opportunity and Human Rights Commission. Victoria Police will also investigate serious vilification offenses and, for example, encouraging violence against people. So what does vilification mean? This is important. Vilification is when someone says or does something in public that incites hatred, serious contempt, revulsion, or severe ridicule against a particular group of people. But however, down here, it talks about the police getting involved in examples of encouraging violence, which is obviously something both of us believe do not fall under a free speech absolutist perspective.
I mean, wasn't there, or I mean, I would assume that there was already laws before this that would have stopped, that made that illegal. I think, if they're trying to stop harassment, I think, didn't they already have anti-harassment laws? I think this is I don't know. I can't tell exactly what's happening here, but it seems like, making certain type of speech illegal in public, if it doesn't fall under, if it could be described as harassment, then it was already illegal. I'm almost sure that Australia already had laws that was against harassment. If it's not harassment and just speech, and now there's these new laws are making it illegal, then that is so anti-free speech. I mean, again, me saying that this is a violation of people's free speech doesn't mean that I agree with them, right? But because I see sometimes people defend these things by saying, look, people are being harassed, people are feeling unsafe, people are feeling uncomfortable with this kind of, the examples that they give is examples of not just people in public just stating their opinions. They give examples of women in hijab and somebody coming and shouting at them and telling them to go back to wherever they came from, or certain other speech, which is the examples they give is not just people giving their opinions, it's examples of actual harassment. And they use examples of harassment as a way to justify laws like this. But if every example that you want to give to sell this is an example of harassment, then you already have anti-harassment laws. If this is a new thing that you're adding, then it will cover things that are not harassment, but are just mere expressions of opinions. Bad opinions, I would agree, but still just mere expression of opinions that you're trying to make illegal. And that's why I have like, this is giving me Orwellian.
Well, here's something that concerns me. It says the harm caused by hate, conduct, and vilification can be profound, affecting the physical and psychological well-being of individuals, often preventing them from feeling comfortable participating in their community. So it's again talking about this feeling of comfort, but not as the result of specific harassment, but due to the public display of certain symbols.
Yeah, this is like,
how far is this going to go? Like, is it just,
I mean,
I feel uncomfortable when I see like Antifa symbols all over my area. I mean, I live in America, so they wouldn't do anything about it anyways. And also there's just vandalism everywhere I live. But
I mean, yeah, that's like, a great,
does that not apply?
A great example. That's a great example. What if you're ex-Muslim and you're uncomfortable about public displays of Islamic symbols, right? Are we now be able to public display of Islamic symbol, if that makes me uncomfortable as an ex-Muslim? I mean, it doesn't make me uncomfortable, but if it makes other ex-Muslims uncomfortable, would that be grounds for like not letting public displays of Islamic symbols? And another thing, by the way, I noticed is when people, that was a very good example, Susan, I didn't even think about that, but you're right. Another thing that I think of when people give arguments about this is they say like free speech is not they want to counter us. Like, what do you want? You want the free speech to be hateful, free speech to say these really, really bad opinions? Is that really what free speech is about? And I'm like, yeah, that is what I mean. Free speech is not protection of speech that is just a speech that is good. You know what I mean? Free speech is supposed to be the protection of all speech, including speech that we don't like. That's like, it's, you know, is that like, is free speech the freedom of to be offensive, to be hateful? Yeah, free speech protects being hateful. It doesn't endorse it. It doesn't say it's okay. It doesn't say like, if you say that it shouldn't be illegal to say hateful things, that doesn't mean it's good to say hateful things. Like a lot of people who are in favor of laws like this, they strawman you by saying that if you are for not making these kind of speech illegal, then you're endorsing them, then you're on the side of these kind of talk, and you're not. Like, how ridiculous is that to suggest that? It's like such a like child's understanding of what we're actually saying. But yeah, go on.
Well, in terms of you saying, like, what about other symbols? This is specifically about the Yahtzee symbol, saying Yahtzee symbols glorify one of the most hateful ideologies in human history. It must confront hate, prevent it, and give it no space to grow. So if that's the standard, there are a lot of other hateful ideologies, but some people worship them. Like, you know,
I know, but that's how they started. This anti-vilification laws is going beyond that right now. It started, I think it started with this anti-Yahtzee. Again, guys, we're saying Yahtzee instead of the actual thing because we don't want to trigger YouTube. But
no, it started with it making vilification against racial and religious groups unlawful.
Yeah.
And it's being expanded to other group categories.
I see politicians I see politicians making examples of why we need laws like this, right? And I saw like the example I said, like, oh, the hijabi woman, they get people in the street telling them, coming and talk, you know, harassing them about their hijab. It was like, isn't that already illegal? Like, if that was on, like, isn't that already like harassment? Like, that should have already been illegal. Like, if you're being harassed in public because of your hijab, that should have already been protected. If this is just about speech, this is what you're adding is just about. Anyways, I already
well, because I'm an American and my understanding is just like the First Amendment, I actually had to go look up. I'm like, I can't just say, well, obviously that violates the First Amendment because that's not the Constitution of this country. And I went to go look it up. And granted, this is just what's on, you know, the first Google result. but it says Australian does not have explicit freedom of speech in any constitutional or statutory declaration of rights, which was shocking.
Yeah.
So that's actually not something that's explicitly like.
That's why United States is a superior country when it comes to free speech issues. You should be glad, and on this aspect at least, you should be glad that you're American. But only on this aspect, not on.
I swear to God, the Bill of Rights is the sexiest thing I've ever seen. I look at that Bill of Rights and I'm like, oh my God, it's so sexy. Wait, can I tell a funny story real quick? Is speaking of Antifa symbols, someone spray painted the anarchist A like in this power box near my neighborhood. I had this on my Instagram the other day, and it was like that for a long time. And then someone went up and just wrote 2 S's next to it, so it just says ass. And I'm like, finally, a message we can all get behind.
That's funny. That's funny. All right, next question.
The next question is from Anne, and she is following up on a previous question she asked 2 weeks ago regarding creations by Muslims during kind of the Age of Enlightenment. And we were like a little bit, we had some contentions over the way she asked the question. So she's clarifying.
What was the original question about before we read her question today? I think the question was about whether or not, like, the golden, what is often referred to as the golden age of Islam. I'm not going to clarify every time why I have an issue with that name. She was arguing that how well, like, okay, fine, they had philosophers and scientists, how well received were these people at that time? Because she heard of a story of one person being executed at that time, and she was wondering, maybe these people, yes, they were great like the golden age of Islam had great thinkers and scientists or whatever, but they were not that well received. And I rejected that idea, and I was like, no, they were well received. They were honored, they were revered, they were celebrated. But yeah, go on.
Her specific question last week was, Muslims often insist that the fork, algebra, etc. are Muslim inventions, yet what were the actual fates of the individuals that came up with them? And we answered that 2 weeks ago. And one of my contentions was like the assumption that something bad happened to them. And you were like, yeah, they were celebrated. So she followed up and said, when I asked one of my previous questions about the fates of the individuals who came up with the so-called Muslims inventions like the fork and algebra, the reasoning was because I heard that the inventor of the fork, for example, was punished and put to death. What do you think of this? Note, allegedly the fork was invented much earlier, around the time of ancient China/Greece.
Okay, from all the things that the golden age of Islam, which again I refer to as the golden age of Persians and Arabs, not Islam, because it was not because of Islam. That golden age. I'm just going to say the golden age of Abbasites. Okay. I don't think the fork. I don't know if this is fair to say. I don't think the fork was one of them. I think the fork is like such a simple thing, and I think it's ancient. I think ancient people, way before the Abbasites, had forks. I mean, it's just like a stick with sharp edges. If you have more than 2 sharp edges, I'm pretty sure if you look at history of the fork, it predates. I think the history of the fork predates Islam, but I mean, she's suggesting it.
I can promise
right?
you that someone found a stick with some, like it was 2 edges, and was like, "This is pretty useful."
Yeah, no, I'm almost sure that the fork predates Islam. Okay,
let's go to our good sis Google. No. Google says, although its origin may go back to ancient Greece, the personal table fork was most likely invented by the Byzantine Empire, where they were in common use by the 4th century. Records show that by the 9th century, in some elite circles of Persia, a similar utensil known as the bargin was in limited use.
Okay, the fork was already a thing. Some people decide to use it at the dinner table. Okay, the fork was already, or at the table, eat it at Anyway, so it was already a thing.
Right. It's my own now.
All right, no, the Muslims during the Abbasids and the surrounding Islamic empires, um, at that time they invented much greater things than the goddamn fork. Okay, I mean, if you look at Khwarazmi, if you look at Ibn Sina, these were major in like algebra was invented by Khwarazmi. Like a lot of people think it was Newton. It was Khwarazmi way before Newton, right? Algebra, okay? And you guys like are suggesting like that they were their faiths were bad. First of all, I don't know who this guy is that you're referring to, who you say invented the fork. I don't think, even if he was executed, I don't think it was because of the fork. I don't know what the story is. I don't know.
Turns out he evaded taxes.
Right? But if you look at like the life of Khwarazmi or Ibn Sina, or what Westerners called Avicenna, they were like very much celebrated. I mean, even Avicenna, who was celebrated and also sometimes like chased, he was chased mostly because of political reasons, not because he was like, oh, you're too knowledgeable, you're giving us too much knowledge, so we're gonna chase you down. Like, no, he was honored, he was revered, and the people who were his enemies, they were his enemies for political reason, not because like, oh, your knowledge is, we don't like knowledge in Islam, why are you giving us so much knowledge? Like, it wasn't like that. Or Khwarazmi, who invented algebra, okay, right? He was very much celebrated. Like, nobody executed him because like, oh, algebra is anti-Islamic, to put him, off with his head because of algebra.
Christians definitely did that type of shit.
No, I mean, okay, so Christians didn't. Christians also, Muslims did that and Christians did that with specific people. Like, for example, Ibn Taymiyyah. Actually, this is very interesting because Avicenna and Khwarazmi and some other thinkers that we celebrate as people who contributed to science and philosophy in a positive way, they actually didn't get killed. Ibn Taymiyyah, who was, on the other hand, more conservative and extremely Islamic, he was put to jail. He was in jail and he was killed. Okay, so, and also Imam Ahmad, who is responsible for radicalism in who's the main
Hanbali?
They refer to him as Imam Ahmad, right? Like, he's the original father of what we recognize today as radical Islam. He was tortured. Okay, so if anything, it seems like the ones that we consider to be more conservative were either put to death or tortured, and the ones that were actually contributing positively to science, to math, they were mostly celebrated. I mean, some of them they got into some hot water, but if you look at like Ibn Khaldun or Ibn Sina, they got into hot water when they got mixed with politics. Like, the ones that just stayed home, when what we call that, when historians, Islamic historians, when they were staying at home and just doing history, nobody bothered them. But they were like, hey, can I have that government position? Then they got into like political disputes, and then they had enemies or stuff, right? So even if some of them did get into trouble, it wasn't because of their contribution to science and philosophy, right? So again, and guys, this is not me defending Islam, because these people had great contributions to math, history, science, and philosophy, not because Muslim. You know what I mean? It wasn't. I mean, Islam is not. These things would have happened with or without Islam. Okay, just like we had a lot of philosophers and scientists in the Christian world. But if you removed Christianity from the equation, it's not like all of the science would have not happened. It would probably even happen more, right?
Have you seen those graphs of like scientific advancement, and then it's like the Christian Dark Ages, and it's just,
that's a meme. That's not
real.
That's not real. No, but just like in the Renaissance, a lot of the people who were the patrons of poets, artists, philosophers, and scientists were Christian. Okay, people are like, oh, this means Christianity was responsible for science. Like, everybody was Christian. Of course, whoever is funding science is going to be Christian. Okay, what are you talking about? Like, what was the alternative? So it's not like if Christianity wasn't there, nobody would be funding this. Somebody else would be. If the religion was ancient Greek religion, it would be the Greeks, the people with Greek religion that would be funding this, right? So also under the Islamic Empire, these people who contributed to science, they got rich off of this. Like Ibn Sina had a very comfortable life. People paid him money because the sultans, I mean, not the sultans, the caliphs, when they recognized talent and people who were actually contributing something meaningful to the academia, they were celebrating that. They were actually, the Abbasids were obsessed with funding people who contribute to science. They created an entire house of wisdom and tried to attract as many thinkers and philosophers and scientists from all. They were trying to steal other people's scientists. They were obsessed with contributing to science, and they paid them very well. So they were, funding science, right? But that doesn't mean Islam was responsible for this, because if the religion was something else and they were rich, this would have happened under that different religion. And if there was no religion, this would happen under something. I mean, it was impossible for that at that time to be no religion. But like people look, Islam is funding science, as opposed to what? There was nothing else there. Everybody was a Muslim, right? Anyways, I already talked about this.
We have another question from Anne. Saying, for the sake of argument, since you've had blasphemous art made of Jordan Peterson, seemingly blindly revered by political conservatives, would you consider making one of Greta Thunberg, who seems blindly revered by the political left? Isn't she a child?
What? And our blasphemous art is like from a mature audience, and Greta is a child. How old is Greta?
Google. Google.
Yeah. She just turned 18, so never mind. But I just have to explain, Jordan Peterson, we didn't do art with Jordan Peterson because he's a conservative, okay? This was, first of all, our art with Jordan Peterson wasn't even anti-Jordan. I know a lot of Jordan Peterson fans who follow him he's a cult leader. I mean, he is technically a cult leader, okay? Like, we're so offended by the... Yeah, he is. Let me finish my thoughts.
Sorry.
Please. Let me finish my... Okay. So, Jordan Peterson, the art that we did with him wasn't even an attack on him, but the people who are his fans were so triggered. Like, I couldn't believe, we found a new religion. Like, kind of like the attack that we got wasn't from Christians or like anyone who's a fan of Jordan Peterson because they were like religious or anything. They seem to have been, we have hit a nerve with that art, and it was so unjustified, because if they actually look at the art, he was portrayed very well, and we had disagreements with his takes, and the art was like highlighting that disagreement. But if you actually read the explanation of the art, it wasn't even a disagreement that was portrayed in any disrespectful way. I think a lot of people think like drawing art of somebody is an attack on them. Like, Jordan Peterson was displayed very well in that art. He looked very good. Why do people think this is an attack? This is not an attack. This was like displaying somebody in art. I mean, we had disagreement. And also, the reason why Jordan Peterson was relative to our art was not because he's conservative and this was supposed to be an anti-conservative art. He was we were portraying him because of his take on mythology. And our art is a bad mythology. And we were highlighting his views on the role of myth and mythology. And we were giving our take on his views and countering it. So that's why Jordan Peterson's take on mythology was relevant to the blasphemous art we do. This has nothing to do with liberal or conservative or anything like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to bring up. It's not for the sake of blaspheming against conservatives. It just had that effect. Like, it was actually a commentary on his brand of basically postmodernism. Like, he's actually a postmodernist, the way he talks about myth and meaning. Ironically, it was a commentary on that, specifically the contention with him being so insulted over being portrayed as Red Skull in Marvel comics, and the way he talks about devils and mythology, not realizing that the process of myth making is actually not as clean or maybe not objective, correct as he wants to make it seem. Because when he was suddenly crafted or became mixed into the world of modern mythology, meaning our comics, he was portrayed as basically the devil, which he found so insulting. Which to us, we go back and we go, well, JP, think about these other mythologies that you praise. Now that you are actually involved in this process of myth making yourself and you feel like you've been mischaracterized, like our contention is, well, maybe that kind of happened with these mythologies you uniquely praise so much, specifically Christianity. So yeah, it has more to do with our work with mythology and religion and ideologies than political tribalism.
Well, I mean, I am politically anti-conservative, very much.
Conservatism.
But not in this art. That was not the point of this specific art. And I'm not saying I'm going to say that we're not going to make art against conservative views. We might, but this was not the point of that. Oh, and also, guys, if you want to see the blasphemous art with Jordan Peterson, I know Jordan Peterson is not nude in the art, but the devil is. So you could get that and at blasphemousart.com. So go check it out. And the link to all our art is in the description. All right.
Okay. Next patron question from Anne. What are your thoughts on The Sealed Nectar, which is called the biography of Muhammad, as a credible source for showing what he and his companions were like, i.e. the story of Kurfa? Bearing in mind it was published somewhat recently. Amazon is telling me it was published around 2002. So are you familiar with this book and how authoritative / authentic it is? Because I'm not familiar at all.
Most of the biographies of Muhammad relies on both strong, authentic hadiths and weak hadiths. And I'm assuming this is also the case with this one, right? Because first of all, let's actually get something clear from the beginning, okay? When we're talking about, authentic sources, we're talking about from an Islamic perspective, not from an academic perspective, okay? From an academic perspective, none of even the so-called authentic hadith in Islam, the vast majority of them, we probably, we don't know, either we know that it didn't happen, or we have no idea if it happened. Most likely did not happen, right? So if we're looking at the biography of Muhammad and saying how much of it is authentic, how much of it is true, we're looking from what it says, what's considered authentic based on Islamic standard. Based on academic standards, most of it goes out the window. We know that Muhammad's story, a lot of it, not all, a lot of it is it was made up. Okay, I would even say most of it was made up after in the Umayyad and the Abbasid dynasty, way after Muhammad's death. Okay, so based on academic we're not talking about academic standards. Based on Islamic standards, we have hadith that is either considered sahih or authentic in Islam, or zaif or weak, and different gradings in the middle. When it comes to the Sirah, which is the biography of Muhammad, that level of analysis has not been done in Islam. So the only thing that in the Sirah or biography of Muhammad that could be reliable as the story of Muhammad are the ones that are rooted in hadith that is already authentic. And most biographies of Muhammad, and I would argue that including this one, relies on both authentic hadiths and weak hadiths. and also sometimes some of the Sirah is based on no hadith. It's just the source is what? The source is the Sirah, the Sirah itself, right? Like some of the earliest biographies of Muhammad are based on no hadith at all. Like the Sirah itself predates the hadith collections itself, right? So they are they are a source of Muhammad's story before there was even hadith. Some of them, right? But this one is like a later one, and one reason why, if you did want to make a biography of Muhammad that only relied on authentic hadith, it would be a very short one. You know what I mean? Because most hadith is not even about the story of Muhammad. A lot of hadith is just about Muhammad saying, do this, do that, this is good, this is bad. But if you wanted to get rid of and also a lot of them that is about Muhammad doing things, it's not like major events. It's about like Muhammad has Aisha complaining about not being able to wash Muhammad's cum from his clothes, right? This is actually authentic hadith, right? Like she's like, Aisha's like, I keep washing, and I keep getting cum on Muhammad's. Like,
it won't come out.
And it keeps getting more and more and more. Like every time I wash it, the next time I get his clothes, there's more cum on it, and it just doesn't come off, right? So this is actually authentic hadith. Aisha complaining about this is actually authentic. Again, when I say authentic, it's based on Islamic standards, because again, academic standards, we don't have any evidence that Aisha was actually complaining about Muhammad's cum on his clothes. Right, so, right. No, but so the thing is, like a lot of hadith like this is not going to be an event that you could add in Muhammad's biography as a major part of the story. Like the things that you're looking in the hadith are like battles or like major events, treaties that were signed, the Hijra, or like the constitution in Medina. These are major events that you need some sources for in hadith that you could rely on as authentic to build the entire story, not Aisha washing cum off of Muhammad's clothes. And if you only rely on authentic hadith, then the biography is going to be a lot shorter than a lot of people like. And also a lot of the popular stories about Muhammad is going to be missing. And that's why most of Muhammad's biography is mixed of stories that rely on both authentic, but Islamic standards consider authentic, and also what Islamic standards consider weak. By the way, when they say weak sources, weak hadith, they don't mean that it didn't happen, right? So if a hadith in Islam is weak, it doesn't mean that it's false. It means that it's not reliable. Like maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. Anyways, okay. So that was...
Okay, we have a question from Mark next. And it's in pieces because it's so long. Mark is saying, I have an 8-year-old raised secular, and he's starting to ponder existential questions in life now, and is completely terrified about the idea that everything is temporary, and had been expressing to me how much he wanted ideas like heaven or angels or God to be real. I do not want to lie to him just so he would feel better, but it breaks my heart to see how scary the idea is for him at the time. And I can see how religion offers parents and children comfort when wrestling with existential questions. That said, what are some ways to respond with him tearfully when he tearfully asks if I would always be with him now and whatever comes next? This is a really tough question.
I have some very strong views about this, and I think some people are not going to be happy with my answer. Okay.
Oh boy.
Okay. Guys, okay. First of all, to anybody who says that my views on this topic is not correct because I am not a parent, and if you say I am a parent, and Armin, you don't have any kids, so you shouldn't be in a position to tell people with kids what to do with their kids. I will respond to that. Wait, let me finish. I will respond to that I am already a better parent than you without a kid. Okay? I know that me without a kid, I can already tell that I would outparent people that already have kids. I would outparent most people. Okay, so I'm not talking about our patron, by the way. I'm just talking our patron probably is a better parent than me, but most people who criticize me for like they're like, I give advice like, oh guys, you shouldn't give your kids unhealthy food. They're like, Armin, you have no idea how hard it is to give your kid broccoli and stuff like, oh, well, there's your problem. You're trying to give them broccoli. You know how easy it is to make healthy
Armin.
food actually like taste. Anyways, okay. So yeah, I already know that I'm a better parent than that person that told me that. But anyways, with regards to this, because I'm not an expert, for that reason, don't take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. That's a better reason to be skeptical about what I'm saying. And you could tell me why I'm wrong if you think so. But probably I'm not. What I think as a parent, if your goal is to shield your kid from being upset, I think that's already the wrong mindset. Okay,
I completely agree.
I think like if you like, oh my God, my kid is upset and experiencing sadness, how could I make this stop? I think you might raise your kid in a situation where tough life realities in life is going to be harder for them to tolerate. I know as a parent, it's going to be difficult to watch your child having to struggle with certain emotional things and want to make that go away immediately, but maybe they need to struggle with certain things. Maybe that's the pain that they're experiencing is something. It's kind of like a vaccine. You know what I mean? They need to develop the emotional. They need to express this emotion. I think the environment that you want to, like, if a child is becoming aware of death and the fact that that's reality, and they're sad about it, instead of thinking, how could I make the sadness go away? No, let the sadness be there. I know it's tough as a parent to watch your child experience sadness, but they need to deal with this. Instead, I think as a parent, your role should be to let them express it. You know what I mean? To invite them to go through it, think about why it's making them sad, instead of trying to make them not sad. Let them create this environment where they feel like they can share their sadness with you, and you are a parent that is willing to be there and listen to it and receive their expression of sadness. So use this as an opportunity to demonstrate to them that you are you have a hearing ear always for them, and you are a reliable person to go to share the things that they're struggling with. And also use this as an opportunity for them to be able to reflect on the thoughts that they're having, and to become more methodology, have a better understanding of their own feelings and how to deal with them and how to compartmentalize it and how to analyze it. Maybe ask them questions, hug them while they're being teary eyes about them, and ask them question, why do you feel like this? And then make them show them that you're interested in their feelings and their thoughts and what they're going through. This is a powerful opportunity for you to demonstrate your role in their life when they go through struggle. And also, by delaying you would want them actually to go through the sadness in pieces. You know what I mean? Because at some point they're going to experience death in the family. Okay, and you might think like, oh no, they're feeling sad. Well, this sadness that they're experiencing right now is offloading some of the sadness, the shock from an actual death that they're going to experience one day in the family. So it's better for them to be prepared and have a philosophy of what death is and what it means, and have that sadness come to them in pieces rather than it coming to them with a shock, right? So this is a good thing that they're experiencing some sadness right now, because this is offloading some of the extreme shock from a death that they may be experiencing when the death comes. Like if they have no experience with this sadness right now, and all of a sudden it comes at them without this level of preparation, it might be even more devastating. So let them go through the sadness so that they're more prepared to accept death as part of reality. In fact, I would encourage you to introduce more experience with death in their life by getting maybe a goldfish and then maybe a cat. So they fall in love, they lose, they notice that yes, the death was a tragic part of that experience, but overall the love relationship that they have with a pet or with a cat or a dog, the positive from that was outweighed the negative. So even the death came as a shock, they wouldn't want to take that away. Like, for example, if you have a cat that you love and you raise and then they die, even though you notice that the death was tragic, would you prefer that experience with the cat was never there? They would not say that. So they notice, like, yes, death is a tragic part of life, but it's the price that we pay for the positive experiences that we have with those loved ones, right? So the net is positive at the end, and these things can be communicated with somebody, but it could also be experienced through pets. I think is a powerful way of doing it. So I keep talking. You want to say things? I'm not letting you. Go on.
Yeah, I think your advice is really good. A job of a parent is not necessarily to make their kids feel better, but to actually teach them how to cope and to cope in the healthiest way possible. Right. So in my household, I was overly sheltered and overly protected in a lot of ways. And so when I was a young adult and entering into the world, I was given no tools how to actually deal with stressful, real life, scary, messy situations. Right. So what did that cause? A whole lot of anxiety because I've just been hidden away from the bad and ugly things in life. That doesn't make them not exist, right? But now I'm at the disadvantage of not knowing how to tackle them. So I always I'm not a parent, but I would always err on the sides of more conversation, more education about these things to help them be prepared and not blindsided by all of the ugly, horrible, despicable things about life that, go far beyond death, like drug use or something, um, young adults need to know how to handle situations like that in a real world, frank kind of way and not be permanently protected by the harsh realities that we live in. But I think you sound like a parent that's very attentive to their child's needs. Like the fact that you are so tuned in to how your child is starting to think about these existential questions and express some anxiety over it. I think that alone, you're probably more equipped to be better at what's the word I'm looking for? Like really being present for your child. And I think that's something you can emphasize to him as well. I mean, it's kind of hard because he's a little boy and young kids are not, their conception of time and long-term reward is, very different. That's something you gain later in life. But the idea of like, this is something that is very sad about life, but that's why it's so important that we love each other right now, and be kind to each other as best as we can now. I think that's an important lesson for young children.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, it's a good point that you mentioned that we might not be parents, but we were kids, so we have that experience. We were
True.
we were children of parents. One thing I also want to say, I think, like I already mentioned, that I think there's this misconception by a lot of parents that they need to shield their children from any negative experience, and I think that's probably wrong.
That's a detriment to your child.
Yeah. Another thing that I think it's a misconception, especially as the child grows, is I think a lot of people think that the role of the parents is that to answer these questions. And I think not all, but in many situations, the role of the parents is supposed to be to listen and invite questioning and question and listen rather than to give answers to encourage your child to explore the ideas
That's so true.
themselves, right? Again,
Non-judgmental. Be
yes,
non-judgmental, because like that wasn't an option in my household. I had to go outwards to find information about most of I don't know,
Right.
bad shit in life.
Yeah. By the way, this is really conditional on the age of the child, because if your child is like 3 or 4, you need to be a source of stability in their life. So you can't, if they asking questions at age 3, 4, 5, you probably should just show them that you have answers and that you are a reliable person. I just think like maybe an older age, maybe this role would change, but you don't want to introduce instability, like a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old kid. You don't want to make them feel like you are not a source of stability and answers in their life. So it really does depend on the age as well. But go ahead.
Yeah, obviously keep it age appropriate, but that's actually why I think letting the children lead in this particular instance is helpful, because the kid is starting to pick up on stuff in their environment and they're asking the authority, the foundation in their life about what they're starting to learn about their environment. So that's the difference between bringing something to a kid what's maybe not age appropriate before they're ready versus the kid noticing something and being like, what's up with this? And going to their foundation to find a sense of answers. Does the difference there make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
All right. Yeah, basically what I'm saying is that if a 2-year-old asks me as a father why the sky is blue, I would completely be different than if like an 8-year-old asks me the same question, right? If the 2-year-old asks me, I would like come up with a cute answer that is interesting and make them curious. If an 8-year-old asks me, I would like that would be an excuse to go on a journey for answers together. That would be a different story. Anyways, let's go to the next question.
Next question is from Music Guy, and we're getting geopolitical now. Music Guy is asking, the Islamic Republic of Iran is supposedly a month away from having enough material to build a job singular nuclear bomb. Could you give us an update on what's going on with the Iran nuclear deal? Armin, I will turn that over to you. What's up with the JCPOA, bro?
Oh my god. All right, this is like, okay, so let's just be clear about the question. Let me correct the question first. Iran is the Islamic Republic of Iran is not a month away. Oh yeah, actually you said it right. It is a month away from having enough, not material, but just uranium, enriched uranium, to build a nuclear bomb, but not all the material, right? The main material is the nuclear head that you're supposed to put the thing on, right? They are a year away from that, okay? So they're a month away from having enough enriched uranium for their first atomic bomb, but not enough. They don't have all the, again, based on the reports, all of this could be wrong. They're about a year away from actually being able to build a nuclear bomb, okay? So that is concerning, right? To say the least. So, I mean, there's a lot of updates that I can give on this. So let me start with here. A lot of people might ask why the Biden administration hasn't already been back to the deal, right? Hasn't already, like, he's promised that he's going to go back with into the deal with Iran, the nuclear deal that the JCPOA that Trump threw away. Biden was supposed to go back to it, and they're like, why is it taking so long? And I must say that I have to congratulate myself for being right about this, because to me, it seemed like both the United States and Iran's government had some red lines that they both said that they're not going to cross. And for a couple of months, everybody was just saying we're a week away from going back to the deal. And I was like, really? Like, how are they going to pass these red lines? Like, these are some serious red lines. And like, it doesn't seem like we're that close. Like, but okay, if we're that close, I'm going to be very curious to see how you manage to negotiate these extremely, very, very red lines. Okay, they're so okay.
Strict boundaries.
Yes, they're strict boundaries. And I was like, okay, like, the next week happened. Like, okay, we're not back in the deal. We're not back in the deal. And then the government changed in Iran, and now we're like a new government. Okay, so I was right about this thing not being as simple as a lot of people were suggesting it. Okay, And a lot of people say, well, it's not simple, but it should have been simple. Biden could have just with a stroke of a pen could have gone back to the deal. And
it could have been. It shouldn't have been.
No,
Excuse
it couldn't. It's neither shouldn't or couldn't, because Iran's government was asking for more than just going back to the deal. Okay, both the Islamic Republic of Iran was asking for more, and the United States was also asking for more. And I would argue, I know I'm biased here, but bear with me, okay? The United States was justifiably asking for more, and the Iran's government was unjustifiably asking for more, okay? So the United States government
they were asking to lift sanctions even beyond the ones that were implemented by Trump, right?
Well, not just that, but also some new sanctions, even under Trump's administration, that had nothing to do with the nuclear weapons, but it was based on human rights, right? So they're asking Biden to remove all sanctions on everybody, including Khamenei's office and the IRGC, everything that has about anything. And then they're also, which is no. This has nothing to do with the nuclear deal. These other sanctions are human rights sanctions. Okay, you don't, and also sanctions regarding to Iran's meddling around the region, and also Iran's government was asking that even after you remove the sanctions, you have to give us some time to see if this is going to benefit our economy or not before we agree. No, we can't do that, because the reason why Iran is not able to do trade with the rest of the world goes beyond the sanctions, right? There are some financial transactions that Iran's government is not be able to be involved with because of them being blacklisted, that is separate from the nuclear deal as a whole. So they're saying these sanctions removal is not helping our economy that much, because we still can't participate in the world economy even without the sanctions. So you have to make it so that we do benefit. We actually have to see economic benefits before we even agree to the nuclear deal. I know that's not going to happen, right? Another reason why United States so these are the things that Iran's government is demanding, which is beyond the nuclear deal that was agreed upon before with Obama, that Obama is we can't do. And one other thing is that they're saying, because we did a deal with Obama and Trump came and removed it, we don't know that if we go to a deal with Biden, that is going to be permanent, but because maybe you're going to have another president after Biden and they're going to remove it. So what we want a guarantee. So we don't want just an executive action by Biden. We need something that is permanent. And Biden doesn't have the power to give that. You know what I mean? Because that means that has to be something that is beyond an executive action, that has to go through Congress and the Senate. And so they're asking Biden to do something that he doesn't have the power to do. And they're asking him to do it in a time that doesn't make sense. First of all, Congress wouldn't do this. And Biden can't force them. Second of all, even if they could do it, and if they wanted to do it, this is a much slower thing to do than people why is this not happening immediately? Well, because the thing that they're asking is something that the United States, even if it had the political will to do, would be a much slower process. Yeah, it would be. Well, it wouldn't happen. Second of all, I don't know what number we are. Iran's government doesn't seem to be even interested right now to go back to the deal. Okay, they're stalling. All right, so they're oh guys, we haven't. First of all, we're going to turn off the cameras, the IAEA cameras that were supposed to be monitoring all the actions in the nuclear facilities. There are 4 sites that they enrich that signs of enrichment uranium has been found before the deal was even made, that Iran has refused to answer to where are these enriched uraniums, why are these on these other 4 sites. They are just completely silent about it. The IAEA is asking them about explanation for why these uraniums, enriched uranium exists in these other places, and Iran just doesn't answer. So, and they're saying that, we need, the talks has stopped because Iran is we have a new guys, we have a new government. We don't even new number who this. We have to You have to give us a few months to come up with a team. So it seems like they're stalling because they want to keep people like, why is Biden not going to the deal? Well, the Iran's new administration is trying to buy time to not even negotiate the deal so that they could keep enriching uranium more and more and more.
Yeah.
So if they ever go to a deal, they're like, oh my God, look at all this uranium you have. We have the upper hand now. They're going to use all of the enriched uranium that they have as so much leverage that they're going to have more stuff to be able to negotiate with. So they're trying to delay the process on purpose, right? And also, they finally, after all these months, the new government of Iran has been formed, right, after the elections. And after so many months of like, give us some time, they finally picked a negotiator to replace the negotiator from the previous regime. And the guy they picked, the administration. The guy they picked is a person that was a major advocate against the deal as a whole, right? So the most outspoken, aggressive person against the deal is now in charge of negotiating. The person that was arguing with such aggressive tones that there shouldn't be a deal, that the deal is suicide for Iran, that Iran and the United States shouldn't have a nuclear deal, now is in charge of making a deal. Like their signal, like it's the most loudest signal that they don't want a deal. Or like you put the person in charge of making a deal, the person that is the advocate of not wanting a deal. Look, amazing. From the Trump administration side, for the Biden administration side, the reason why they can't go back to the Obama deal is because they're dealing with a new situation right now. Okay, thanks to Trump, Iran has a lot more enriched uranium. They had a lot more advanced equipment that they're not supposed to be having. And even if you somehow manage to come up with a deal that they get rid of that enriched uranium, my mind would be blown if you could convince the Iran's government to do that. Even if you could convince them to get rid of these new advanced centrifuges, which my mind would be blown if you could get them to do that. They have now the science and the experience to do things that they didn't have before, right? You're not going to be able to get that new experience away from them. They have the know-how, they have the science, they have the knowledge, and you're dealing with a completely different situation. You can't go back to the Obama deal because this is not the same, Iran. This is not the same Iran's government. You're like the previous terms don't apply. By the way, thank you, Trump, for giving the Islamic Republic of Iran a much bigger, much more leverage and a much upper hand to any new deal that would be able to negotiate. Iran is dangerous. Let's make them a more power. Let's give them so much. Let's remove the deal so Iran has so much time to become so much better at enriching uranium, have much more advanced centrifuges, alienate all our allies. To have a united front against the Islamic Republic and make Iran look like they are on the world stage that they are the reasonable ones. Like, we had a deal. Look at these idiots. They moved out of the deal. We abided by the deal. Like, Trump just made. If you could make the Islamic Republic of Iran look like they are on the right side, like at the world stage, like, you're not doing foreign policy right. Anyways, I have right.
That's just the cherry on top.
No, yeah, like, it's so stupid. But I mean, so what Biden is trying to. Okay, so I don't know if the deal is going to happen or not. Like right now, like we're it's anyone's guess. Okay, that if it's even like we're so close to getting to the point that the deal is not even savable, right? We're not there yet, but we could get there soon. If something doesn't happen. And we don't even know if the Islamic Republic of Iran even wants to deal. Like, maybe they're just pretending so that they buy some time before the backlash happens, right? So the Biden administration I think they're trying to, instead of dancing, like playing Iran's government's game, they're like trying to do the opposite of what Trump did and provide, like, at least creating a united front with Europe and Israel, right? So both in Europe is like more likely to be able to work with Biden compared to Trump. and that would make it easier to put pressure on whatever happens with Iran, whether the deal happens or not. And also, Israel's new government is an opportunity because Netanyahu was just so pro-Republican and anti-democrat that it would be harder for Biden's administration to have a united front against Islamic Republic with the Netanyahu's administration. This new administration works with the Democrats and understands that if United States wants to go with making the deal happen, it's not productive for Israel to just be anti that, because United States is going to do what United States is going to do. Like, you don't have the same power. Israel doesn't have the same power over United States policies as before. So you just have to accept this as a reality and just work with United States rather than just fight against it, because this is going to go through whether you want it or not. And I think the new administration in Israel recognizes that. And it's very interesting because Benny Gantz, which is Israel's defense minister, came just openly said that they're going to accept the deal with Iran if the United States goes through with it. They're going to accept it. This is like a major shift in Israel's tone. Yeah, so this is good because also it means that if the deal doesn't go through, then Israel is going to be united. Israel's new administration is going to be united with United States new administration in confronting the reality. Like, okay, we're going to be with you on the deal side, but then we're going to also be with you if the deal doesn't go through to put pressure on the Islamic Republic of Iran in a different way, right? So I think, I don't know if this united front that the Biden is making happen, unlike Trump's, making United States isolated at the world stage, I don't think it's going to fix all the mess that Trump has left, but it's the best strategy I think that they have, right? Again, it's going to be very difficult because Biden's administration has a very focus on China policy. If this deal doesn't go through, there's not going to be that much. It's going to create such a level of instability and lack of control over the Iran situation, which is going to make that Biden's administration focus on China a lot more difficult. By the way, guys, focus on China is taking speed with the new deal between Australia, United Kingdom, and United States over the nuclear submarines. That you guys just see that happening? That was like, oh my God, these people! Did you see that? The surprise announcement of Australia getting nuclear submarines around China in China's backyard. China is like, that was the biggest. Okay, we could have a discussion about that later. But anyways, that was.
Of course,
was that,
I
was
want to
that
ask
clear?
you about Israel, but we got to go to the last patron question.
Okay, let's go to the last patron.
The last patron question is from D. D is asking, and this is regarding the resistance movement in Afghanistan. Business Insider reported Ahmad Massoud has hired a couple of DC lobbyists to try and continue getting military and financial aid. Do you think this will go anywhere? I've been very occupied with other stuff, and I haven't been following this story. Are you familiar?
Well, I mean, I haven't heard about this lobbyist going. I mean, I know in general the Northern Alliance, which for people who don't know is currently the main resistance group against the Taliban in Afghanistan. I know with or without these lobbyists, they are on a hunt for anyone who pays attention to support them against the Taliban, right? So they are internationally in Europe and in North America looking for, please help us fight the Taliban. I just don't know. I think it might be too late for that. I think like in United States, Taliban has been accepted as the new reality on the ground. So I don't know if the money is being spent on lobbyists in DC. I mean, what is the expectation here? Like, the Biden administration has been very committed to the understanding that we're not going to go back. I mean, even if they get forced to go back, it's not going to be because of Ahmad Massoud lobbyists in DC. Like, with the level of commitment that they have to wash their hands out of being involved in Afghanistan, I don't think that's going to be anything that could be overturned by any lobbyist by Ahmad Massoud in DC. I wonder, again, I might be wrong about this, Probably not. I wonder if that effort would have been more wise spent on asking for help from countries closer to Afghanistan, because given the level of commitment by United States not to be not to um, remove the Taliban, like supporting United States supporting Ahmad Massoud would be them directly being involved in trying to topple the Taliban, which is very unlikely for that to become a thing. I mean, again, anything could happen, right? But I'm just wondering, like, the more likely scenario would have been if, okay, you go ahead, but I'll tell you where I think this would have been made more sense. This investment would have made more sense. But go on.
Oh, it's not even like a full comment so much as would it be really toppling the Taliban so much as just preventing them from taking over this particular area. But again, your question with goals is very pertinent. Like, what is the goal here? That they permanently hold a resistance in this area? That doesn't seem tenable forever. Is their goal to have an autonomous state? I don't know how likely that is either.
I mean, it could be possible that the Taliban, like, you know how we keep telling people that nobody could hold all of Afghanistan together under one power, and we say the Russians have discovered that, the Americans have discovered that, Alexander the Great discovered that. It is possible that Taliban is now going to discover that. I mean, this could also be true. I mean, I don't know. Like, maybe they will be able to completely defeat any resistance and become the only force in all of Afghanistan. But it's possible that they're going to be facing a situation where they're always going to be facing resistant groups, right? Wait, let me actually see if I'm correct about this. Yeah, so what I was gonna say is that right now there is a lot of division. So if you look at Taliban's policies, a lot of them is internal policies, right? But the foreign policies and the sources of influence when it comes to outside of Afghanistan, and the foreign policies that the Taliban has to deal with and not worry about, there are regional foreign policies, and then there are, what is the opposite of regional?
Local
beyond
or
regional.
International?
No. Both of them is international. I'm talking about regional as in neighboring countries versus like United States, Qatar, Turkey, Europe, right?
Yeah, I don't know what you call that.
So beyond regional, okay? So we have internal issues, regional issues, and international issues that are not within the region, okay? And I think like the main concerns of Taliban when it comes to foreign policy is right now not Europe and United States, is the regional players, right? And there are different competing interests, regional plus Qatar and Turkey. I think like Europe and North America has accepted Taliban as a reality, and they're not going to meddle in that. However, there's a competition for power when it comes to countries like Pakistan, Tajikistan, India, Iran, Russia, China, Turkey, and Qatar, or Qatar. Qatar is correct, but you guys say Qatar. And because these other players have interest in which Taliban comes into power, these are the players that you might want to appeal to as a way to at least use the Northern Alliance as leverage to have some influence in Afghanistan, right? So if I was an advisor to Ahmad Massoud, I would say United States has made its decision. Like, they're not going to come help us. France is not going to come help us. Okay. However, there are certain people who are not happy about which Taliban is in power in Afghanistan, and maybe they would be interested in supporting us somewhat as a way for them to have leverage over the current Taliban administration, right? So if you want to look at the Taliban, there's two Talibans. I mean, there's multiple Talibans, right? But you could divide the Talibans in Afghanistan right now into the Pakistani Taliban and the Kandahari Taliban, right? So the Kandahari Taliban, which we could say the main person who represents them right now is Mullah Baradar, was the Taliban that was in Doha, Qatar, negotiating with the West about what's going to happen when Taliban comes to power. And their understanding and their deal was, it's going to be, minority groups will have a seat at the table, and it's going to be more moderate. It's going to be the Kandahari Taliban were the ones who were negotiating with the West in Qatar. Okay, so but now the ISI from Pakistan while that government was being made, the ISI from Pakistan came to Kabul and made sure that the Pakistani Taliban will take all the seats. And this is why there was a conflict between the Haqqani people and Mullah Baradar in the capital, and this is why Mullah Baradar has now left Kabul for Kandahar. Allegedly, he just recently came and said, like, no, we're not fighting. The Taliban has never been united ever. Like, we have been more united than ever before. There's no fighting.
What voice is that?
Allegedly, there was a fight and it got physical, and somebody threw a tea kettle at Mullah Baradar. And some people had said that he died, but then he came out and like, no, I'm not dead. I'm alive.
What?
But yeah, there was a fight. There was a physical fight.
This sounds like a reality TV show. I want to see this.
No, but
instead of throwing champagne bottles, it's a tea kettle.
See, the Pakistani Taliban are a lot more brutal than the Kandahari Taliban. And the Kandahari Taliban were the Taliban that 20 years ago, before American invasion, they were the ones in power. Okay, so the people in power right now, they're not the same Taliban that was in power 20 years ago. And the Kandahari Taliban have become a lot more, in the negotiations in Qatar with Westerns, they have seemed to change a lot from 20 years ago. And a lot of people say that was a show, and as soon as they were coming in power, they were going to betray all of the promises. But it seems like that wasn't not necessarily a show. The fact that a lot of the things that were promised is not happening is causing an internal fight between the Talibans, between the Pakistani Talibans and the Kandahari Talibans. They're not happy with a lot of the people who came in power. The Pakistani Talibans, they have filled the seats with all their people with the help of Pakistan, and this is going to be very uncomfortable for India, especially. Oh my God, India is like looking at this and they hate this. Iran is not happy about this. Okay, Iran wants, if anything, would prefer a more diverse government in Kabul as a way for them to have their people being represented in the government of Afghanistan. But now it seems like Pakistan is having a monopoly over what Afghanistan is. They seem to be wanting to turn Afghanistan into a proxy of ISI, not the proxy of everything in Pakistan, but specifically ISI in Pakistan. There seems to be, Suze, this is interesting, there seems to be an attempt to do demographic engineering and move some of the Pashtuns from Pakistan to Afghanistan as a way to make Afghanistan more of a puppet state of the ISI in Pakistan. And Iran is not happy about that. This is why Iran also came out recently and were like unhappy about Pakistan's attack on the Panjshir region, an attack on the Northern Alliance, because I think they're thinking like Pakistan is just like taking over Afghanistan, and that Iran is not going to have a seat on the table, right? So again, that's why I'm thinking the Northern Alliance could maybe, like, instead of meeting with the Americans, They should be meeting with, Iranians government. If they were being strategic, they should be meeting with Indians. They should be meeting with, I don't think China would listen to them. China wants stability there. I don't know who else they would meet with. I don't think they could meet with Indians. That would be too, I don't know. But I think maybe more regional players should be considered as a source of funding. That's what I would suggest. Anyways, that went for a while.
Well, thank you guys for being patient. We now have time for live chat questions for a little while. So if you asked your questions earlier in the chat, now is your time to ask them, because I don't know when they're going to fix this on StreamYard, but we actually can't go backwards in the chat without everything disappearing, which is super annoying.
Yeah, guys, can you guys repost some of your questions, because StreamYard is not letting us go all the way up for just a few more minutes before we go.
It's so annoying. I can't believe they haven't fixed that.
Yeah.
Well, I learned a lot from you today, Armin.
Oh, thank you. Navabi thinks since Black Name coined the term Dark Susie, can we make that an official meme? I don't know, can we?
Yeah, I feel like our audience has no idea about Dark Susie.
Yeah.
What?
No, Dark Susie is very interesting, and you guys only got a small taste of it. But anyways, I don't know if you're going to be blessed with more of it later.
I don't think they would want to be. It's terrible. It's
more for me, then that's fine.
Darkly depressing.
You want to read this one?
Sean Cornick is asking, what do you think of this claim? The West will regress because we lose our spirituality and in its vital force. The traditional values are not here anymore, but we still need those. Didn't we answer this last week?
The West will regress because we lose our spirituality. Well, I mean, what do I think about this claim?
I think this last week.
All right, let me just. I mean, what do we think about this claim? We think it's ridiculous. I mean, this is a claim. Where's the argument? The West will regress because of the loss of spirituality. What do you mean by spirituality and its vital force? What do you mean by vital force? What is spirituality? What do you mean by spirituality, and what do you mean by vital force?
I'm interpreting this as like a reject modernity, return to tradition. It's giving me that vibe.
The West, so what they're referring to as regress has been the source of progress for the West. Like the Western countries are better places because they didn't stay idle, because they didn't just accept what it is the way it is and continue to improve. So not being content with how things are and trying to change things and improve things is the reason why these countries are superior to other countries. And with that, if you want a spirit that is the spirit that you need to appeal to if you want that progress to continue. So yeah, the traditional values are not there anymore, but we still need those. No, you don't need those. Before the traditional values that you call traditional values were at some point progressive values compared to the values that came before them. And the reason why United States and Northern American and Western European countries became better countries is because they replaced what you refer to as traditional values. They had replaced the values that came before them with those values. So with that, with the same logic, if they want that progress to continue, these new traditional values need to also be replaced with better values. Right?
I love this question by Retard Skeptic. If you were to find out God was real, let's say Allah, I'm sure you would have good reason for you to be convinced. But how would you break the news to us? How would you intro that? Would we be the first to confirm that God was real?
I would start.
That would be hilarious. Yeah.
I would, first of all, I wouldn't break the news. I would have to start everything with saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I would have to invoke the name of God at that point before I say anything, obviously. And I think that would be a major signal to you guys that something is different. And then I would do the shahadat here on air. I would say Ashhadu anna la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I would do the finger thing for effect as well. And second of all, I would remove Susanna because she doesn't have her hijab and she's
No,
making
I think
me
I would
feel
already
things.
be wearing one.
I would lower my gaze. Wait, both of us are Muslim or just me or one of us? So you would have the hijab
Well, I
on.
think the questions are addressed to
I
both
would-
of us.
Yeah. But I still have to look at your face. That's gonna make me happy. Yeah. So, yeah, you would have to cover your face as well, just the eyes maybe, and maybe you shouldn't. Yeah. Anyways, but how would I break? How would I break the news to you? I would probably just start by telling you that I'm a Muslim now, and I will tell you what convinced me. Right? I will just go over, and then I will open the live chat for questions for people to challenge me on my new views. That's how it would happen.
The way you said that would be your first clue that something has changed.
True.
Oh
I would probably take all our art down too, because those are blasphemous. Yeah.
Dude,
I
don't know what we
have
would
to
do
cover
about
up.
that.
I'm trying to immerse skin. I would probably have to
Yeah.
cover up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think you would be a Shia again? No, there's no way. There's no way.
There's too much shirk in Shia.
Exactly. So, do you think you would be a Salafi or a Sufi?
I think I would be one of the people who think that Shia Sunni is a man-made concept. Allah's religion, Allah's deen is just one. There is no Shia and Sunni. It's just the Quran and Muhammad, and that's just one religion. These are just man-made inventions.
Well, you would still need a madhab, right?
I would still be somewhat of I would probably be like, I would read the arguments of Islamic scholars and will come up and we'll try to see if they have any merit, regardless of them being Shia or Sunni. That would, yeah. So I would probably be something like that. I would say something like that. I would like, I'm not Shia. I would be like, I'm not Shia or Sunni. I am Muslim. That's all you need to know.
Snap. Oh, snap. That's so deep, bro.
That's what you.
Honestly, I think that would allow you to fulfill your true vocation, your true skill set of becoming the best Dawa guy ever. I feel like you missed out on an extremely profitable career opportunity. I think you would be the best Dai out of all of them online. I think you would immediately convert most of our audience to Islam straight up.
Yeah. But then my pride will be so high. Oh, I would have an issue with pride because then I'm like,
you don't already.
But then I don't have an issue with pride. I have pride and I don't have a problem with that, right? But as a Muslim, I'm supposed to not give credit to myself. I'm supposed to be giving credit to Allah. And because I would be like so amazing, I would like this, like Ali Dawah, Muhammad Hijab, they would be like, oh my God, this guy is putting us out of business. Like, and it would be a struggle for me not to feel like that's going to be a struggle because I have to be like, oh, I am just Allah's hand. I'm just doing his work. This is not me. But deep inside, I would like, no, but it is me. And then I would like have this internal guilt the entire time.
But I'm killing it. I 100% think you'd be the best Dai. It's not even like a competition.
True.
Oh, wait, where is this question by Zakuro? He's been asking it like this whole time. Zakuro was asking, seeing how governments across the world are printing money, do you think retirement accounts, such as 401ks in the US and Japan, RRSPs in Canada, and superannuation in Australia, etc., mean anything anymore?
Okay, so that depends on whether or not you accept a modern monetary theory, or you think if that's just like voodoo economics or something. Yeah, I mean, first of all, do they mean anything? Like, obviously they're going to mean something. It's not going to. They're not going to be worthless. The worry is not that they're going to be nothing. The worry is not that they're going to be worthless. The worry is that they're going to be worth less. You know what I mean? Not zero.
Not zero, but less than when you put it in.
Yes, exactly.
There we go.
They're not going to have the same purchasing power as they used to have, but not like completely. You can't just completely write them off. So this really depends, okay? And you need more analysis on this. A lot of people think that just because money is being printed, that inflation is going to go out of control, okay? But what they're not considering, and that's, inflation probably will go higher, and a lot of people have predicted that, but maybe not to the extent, again, I'm not sure, but I would say probably not to the extent that a lot of people are fear-mongering. Like, it's not the examples that they're giving of what inflation numbers they're thinking of in history, what they're like, it would be nothing short of an entire collapse of the economy, which I think that might be exaggerating, because what they're not putting into their calculation is that we have more stuff. Okay, so if you make, again, the money that is being printed is outpacing production, so there will be some inflation that is more than usual, but not to the extent that people are suggesting, because we have more money, but the more money being printed, but the money that is being printed is chasing more stuff that is out there, right? So if you have more production with more money, and the expectations of higher levels of production, then, because if you look at the people who are like doomsday predictors, they're only putting that into the equation. They're only looking at the amount of money that is being printed, but then also not looking at how much cheaper it is for us to be producing things and how much more production that is being put out there. And I think that is probably going to increase significantly with AI and other technology that is like almost there now. The level of production is going to be so significant that the money that is chasing the amount of goods that exists out there we don't have to be worried about inflation at that point, right? So for example, let's say if I have, one bottle of water and $1 in the economy, and then all of a sudden I have print another dollar, if I have one bottle of water and $1 in the economy, every bottle of water is going to be $1. If the only good in the society is a bottle of water and the only amount of money in the society is $1, then every bottle of dollar is going to be $1. If I print another dollar, now if the dollar that I had before is worth half as much as before, right? Because I only still have one bottle of water and I have $2. So every bottle of water is going to be $2. So every dollar is going to have half the purchasing power as it used to have, right? So a lot of people try to measure what's going to happen when it comes to wealth in society as with money, but the money is just a measurement of how much wealth it is. The actual measurement of wealth is how much bottles of water I have in society. Okay, that is the production, right? Money is just chasing the goods that are out there, right? So, but if I print $2, yes, the money that I have is worth half as much as before, because I have twice the money I had as I used to before with the same bottle of water. But now if I produce a second bottle of water, Now every dollar is chasing one bottle of water, and the money, there's no inflation. Again, every dollar will buy me one bottle of water. So if you could match the production with the money that is being printed out there, then you're not going to see the same level of inflation that you're predicting, right? So, and I think with the advance of technology and lower production costs and better trade deals, you're going to see, and a lot of people think with the pandemic, there's less production, but it's not just production that you have right now. It's also production that you're predicting, the production that is coming, because when people are valuing how much money is worth, they're also the anticipation of what's going to happen in the future is also taken into account. And also, a lot of people anticipated the pandemic to cripple economies, and the crippling effect that a lot of people anticipated didn't happen. Like, yes, there were a lot of suffering, and a lot of people lost money, and a lot of people had really hard times, but it didn't break. Like, a lot of people thought that this much shutdown for this much long of time would break things apart to the point of no repair. And actually, a lot of people have been amazed to see how resilient the institutions and the economic structures and the trades in place are, that even with a pandemic like this, yes, we suffer a bit, but everything is still standing. Do you know what I mean? And ready to pick it up as soon as everything is ready again. Like, it's actually amazing how resilient the economy is. Anyways. Yeah, and guys, if you're worried about inflation, you should always be mindful of inflation, whether people are printing money or not. Okay, so when you are thinking about your plans on what to do, you shouldn't be invested only in money. You should be invested in either assets or things that produce assets. You know what I mean? So, for example, if you're holding a company, let's say you have this company that produces goods, okay? This is an asset producing entity. Regardless of inflation, it's going to keep producing those assets with whatever the new price is, right? So when you buy stocks or gold or ETFs, these are already protecting you from inflation. As long as you're not holding a lot of your percentage of your portfolio, as long as a lot of it is not in cash, you still need to be somewhat invested in cash to be ready to take advantage of opportunities that they arise. But as long as a lot of what you hold, your sources of income is just actually having a job, or you hold companies or assets, then inflation shouldn't be impacting your portfolio that much, right? Anyways, I'm not a financial advisor, so go speak, appeal to actual experts, do your own due diligence. These are my opinions that could be completely wrong, and do not take anything I say as financial advice. Just a disclaimer out there. Anyways, that was the last thing we want to say. Anything you want to add to that?
No.
All right, guys. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you share and like the video. It really helps the channel. And make sure you subscribe to our newsletter to get our blasphemous art. Link in the description. And if you want to make sure that your questions get answered next time, because some of the live chat questions don't get answered, you could become a Patreon. And if you're a patron, you get the nude version of our blasphemous art. If you want to get the clothed version of our blasphemous art, which is still very sexy, subscribe to our newsletter, and we get you all of that. But if you want to get the nude version, become a patron. You get the sexier version of our art, but you also get priority questions during these Q&As, and your questions will definitely be answered. And yeah, please like this video and share this video and comment and all the good stuff that helps us grow the channel. Thank you all.
And tune in on the news on Saturday.
Yes, same time in 2 days. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Mwah.